Forbes India presents Redefining CX, the edge of collaboration platform powered by Zoom.
Hello and welcome to Forbes India presents Redefining CX, the edge of collaboration platform powered by Zoom. I'm your host Gautam Srinivasan, and today I'll be speaking with a host of leaders on the topic of reimagining future-ready workforce and workspaces. During this conversation, we'll try to understand the trends and challenges at play in a hybrid work environment and see how enterprises are strategizing to improve engagement and using technology-driven solutions to drive collaboration between remote and in-person employees. Our lineup of speakers today include Pankaj Kankar, Chief Technology and Product Officer at Ajio; Balkrishna Singhania, EVP and Head of Digital Technology and Analytics at HDFC Life; and Sameer Raje, General Manager and Head for India and the SAARC Region at Zoom. Thank you, everyone,
Hello.
for joining us on this talk. And of course, here's a message to our viewing audience as well, that they will get a chance to pose questions to our panelists to answer at the end of this panel discussion. All right, let's begin. Pankaj, let's start with you to first understand some of the biggest mindset challenges from a work culture perspective that you've had to overcome in the last few years. Give us the Ajio experience, because when I've spoken to Ajio, when I've spoken to Vineet, we've spoken extensively on the whole online to offline experience at Ajio. There's a lot of moving parts at play. So tell us the challenges which you had to overcome to make sure that your workforce is truly collaborating to drive value for the customer.
Sure. Thank you, Gautam. I think we are still learning. If you remember when we started, when the pandemic hit us, we were sort of puzzled how would we make everybody work remote, and we navigated those challenges. And then I think we shifted to what we have to do next. It has to be hybrid model, even hybrid model. There are various models which are possible. And I'm not sure if everybody has the right answers. We are all learning. But I think some of the challenges early on from the mindset perspective, and I'm generally talking about even industry, that we were not sure if we can work remotely. And then we realized we can work remotely, and it is more productive, you beat traffic and all that, right? But then when things return to normal, the industry has been still debating back to office. Some companies tried that, and then we are sort of inching towards hybrid, right? But I think all across, some of the things which, in my view, still remain as per my view, where we still need to sort of perfect things is employee engagement or customer engagement is one, and more than customer, it's employee engagement. How would you give them the cultural assimilation of the employees? I think we still have to figure out the secret sauce for it, while we have come a long way in that. And with, I think, hybrid, it brings another set of challenges. When everybody was remote, now you have some people who are in office, some are remote. How do you ensure that everybody is equally engaged? Because it's creating what I call as information and engagement dissymmetry, right? So we have to consciously work toward ensuring that we do not create that dissymmetry and create a perception of, ensure there is a fairness in things. And I think also is we are going to now face the logistics challenges. What hybrid model you pick? If you are picking a model that anyone can come anytime, pick any seat, you should not get flooded suddenly one day, and people are grappling for spaces. And even if there are enough space available, how do you ensure, because the idea is engagement, that people who have to work closely together are sitting close by on that day when they are in the office? So these are some new challenges which I think we have to deal with.
Some very valid points there, Pankaj, especially on the whole information and experience asymmetry part, because we are in a hybrid work world and you have an extensive value chain to take care of, and where a lot of the employees would be in office and some of the employees would be out of office as well. How do you make sure that the balance is maintained? We'll explore that and see how technology can solve that issue. But taking the conversation forward from fashion to insurance, Bala, let me come to you. What feedback have you received from your workforce regarding your support for, say, remote or hybrid working? And how have you addressed some of the key challenges? Pankaj already listed some of the challenges, especially in terms of the information and experience asymmetry, the logistics of it. We saw the insurance industry also embrace remote working in a sense during the pandemic, where a lot of the processes change. So, what are the challenges that are still remaining into making sure that you are perfectly positioned for this hybrid work world?
Right. So the way I look at it is there are two parts of the challenge. One is from the sales teams, which is on the ground, where there is a different kind of challenge versus what I call the HO team, which is basically the tech team, operations team, etc., which sits in headquarters per se. So in the on the ground, while most of our team is working on the ground, literally, in some sense. But the expectation of the customers have changed. Earlier, if you needed to talk to the customers, the expectation would be I would come to your office, I would meet you in person. If needed, I will wait in your office reception for 15 minutes or half an hour to get your slot and so on. And then when I get to meet you, I meet you. Now, the whole thing has changed because our customers, especially the higher end, is more than willing actually to take some of the meetings, etc., online. Now, this basically means some of the tools and technology that we give to our frontline sales team has to be digitally enabled for the full conversation enablement. Now, there are simple things like, let's say, if all of us, myself, for example, are lazy at times, and I don't want to fill the long form. So what do? We tell our agent to fill the form, but I also want to make sure that it is correct. So we had to do things like how do I co-browse with the customer?
Hmm.
And the key requirement there is, unlike colleagues where I can expect them to install a software, here the requirement is they should not install heavy apps on their phones, etc., which is typically a non-starter. So
Mhm.
we brought some of those things into play. Some of the other things, such as uh, being able to, for example, communicate with the customer more digitally and give them tools to actually do those things, because
Hmm.
fewer customers want to come to branch nowadays than they used to. So, for example, we have something called life certificate, which is required for certain products so that you keep receiving your pension. You can now validate it digitally. It's available on our website. And if your so-called life certificate is expiring, we'll send you a link and so on. So that is on the field, partly to basically be in line with whatever my customer is expecting and deliver
Hmm.
them the experience the way they want to.
And
Uh,
employee to employee, have you
so
used the video solutions for more collaborations?
Yes, so the
Mhm.
typical solutions from Zoom to Microsoft, a lot of that we use internally, and depending on sometimes who our partner might be, we
Mhm.
use sometimes tools that the partner prefer and so on. So a lot of that happens, and a lot of tech teams, for example, wants hybrid, and we see that set of people whom we don't offer hybrid do tend to have a higher attrition. Uh, lot of people, myself included, had an apprehension that you will have moonlighting lighting experience, or certain people who were not performing will not perform and so on. So there was a lot of apprehension. um,
Hmm.
and one of the things we realized very quickly was performers will perform anyways and non-performers will not perform anyways. So
That's a That's a
in
good point. Performers will perform, and non-performers, well, there's nothing in the world that can hopefully we can get them back on the right track.
Yeah, so the point is, even if they came to office, their productivity was low in some sense. So it did not
Mm,
fundamentally change anything in some sense. Uh,
all right.
while technologically we had to do a lot more things like VPNs, etc., in
Mm,
place. We also, for some of the functions such as accounting, etc., which almost always had a desktop. Now most of our office is on laptops. So when pandemic struck, we actually had to procure X number of laptops, and laptop in the market did go in terms of supply, because I think everyone was buying laptops. Right. So we had a whole lot of logistic challenge when we suddenly had pandemic, but now most of our office compute is on laptops because you don't know, kind of a thing. And a lot of tools available in terms of security, data security, and otherwise.
We'll discuss all of that in terms of the solutions the technology is presenting, Bala. But taking the conversation forward and bringing Sameer in, Sameer, your response to what you've heard from Bala and Pankaj, especially on that point of employee engagement, because there is employee to customer and employee to employee engagement. What is the priority when it comes to boardrooms and their digital workforce in today's scenario, according to you?
Well, if I have to pick up the conversation from what was being said, I would go to my roundtable conversation, which happened just 2 days back, and there were lots of CIOs there, and it was no different. It was exactly the same. And in fact, one of the CIOs gave an example where when they went into started working from home, they realized that there were multiple applications residing on laptops for every employees, right? So like, for example, you want to do this is an application. You want to do that is an application. And finally they came to a conclusion that the employee is losing some more than 25-30 minutes just to go from one application to another and one environment to another. So what I'm trying to say is, today the world is very different, and especially the digital employees, right? And people are embracing this thanks to platforms and portals like Ajio and whatnot, where people are buying online, even buying insurance policies online. At a blink of an eye, it's no longer going to an agent and buying a two-wheeler insurance or a life insurance policy. It's just logging into a portal and buying it, right? That experience has changed. So what happens if the same employee is working in an organization and has to do multiple things? We open multiple portals, log into different apps. It becomes very frictional. It's not omni-channel. There is a lot of friction at every stage. Every workflow is different. It's a broken experience, and that's what is changing now, where the workflows have to be very simple. They have to be, sacrosanct with, within the same environment. It has to be a platform-centric workflow, where you just come in, you click on your window, and all the apps are residing there, and you begin working from there. Maybe you have a different work environment. Maybe you have something else for maybe a customer related environment. That could be the case, but not too many different environments. And that's what is changing. The workflows today are becoming more and more simpler, more and more easy, less and less friction for the employees to enhance the employee experience. That is first part. And second part is, when we talk about hybrid, usually everybody's mind goes on the fact that, oh, we are working from office X number of days, we are working from home Y number of days. It's not hybrid. That is not hybrid anymore. Hybrid today is working from anywhere, anytime, any device. And that's the fact, because this same digital workforce, they are not only going to work from office or home, but they are going to choose working from maybe a coffee shop, or maybe when they are vacationing. I heard a word called staycation or something like that somewhere, where some employee said that, hey, I'm on a vacation, but I'm also working here. I said, wow, that is new for me. But that's what is changing. These employees, these people, they are productive, and as it was said, the people who are productive can be vacationing somewhere, maybe in Goa, maybe in Malibu. They will still be productive, right? And same is the case with the customer. A customer, just because he's having a vacation in Goa, may not choose to stop buying his, and we don't want the customer to stop buying process, right? He may still go to a portal and buy his insurance or renew his insurance if he gets a reminder. And that's what this experience is: having a simple workflow, having an omni-channel experience for employees as well as for the customers.
Absolutely. The era has truly changed, considering it is the era of the always on customer. Earlier, any purchase decision used to be an extensive exercise. These days, you get a reminder or you get a great deal. The customer is willing to transact on that. A few interesting points that you have raised, Sameer, which I'll get Pankaj to respond. But before that, a reminder to our audience to keep dropping in your questions, add in your name, a question to the speaker on our social media handles, and we'll look to take that at the end of this discussion. But taking it forward, Pankaj, to bring you in some of the points which Sameer raised, especially the fact that we employees want a seamless workflow platform. That's the best way to achieve the true hybrid in a sense, whether you're in a staycation mode or you're working out of a coffee shop near your sales prospects office or so on and so forth. So I want to understand from you, how do you plan to use collaboration solutions or tool to enable the hybrid workforce in the new normal, and what does your office look like in the future? How have you been thinking about making your workflow seamless for your workforce to access your platform in a seamless manner from anytime, anywhere, to address whether it's a customer issue, whether it's an organizational issue, address it in a manner that is seamless for them?
Yeah, so I think, and I would add on to what Sameer is mentioned, and I would put it, what as we move into future, what I think we would be looking forward to is what I call as integrated, seamless environment. It's instead of bunch of app, I feel the employee feel it's all integrated, whether it is a document collaboration, communication, project management. That should be the experience to the employee. And I think what is also important is in the communication that we need to seamlessly merge both synchronous and asynchronous communication. Today, it is a lot more synchronous, even if we talk about WhatsApp. But we also have a need in a hybrid workplace model where some communication need to happen in a asynchronous communication mode. So those are some of the things I think as we go into working from anywhere, one of the things I think which is becoming very important is sort of the use of virtual. I'm not talking about document collaboration because all that we have been using, but to add to top of it is virtual whiteboards or blackboards. And especially now with some people coming in office, I also feel a need of having whiteboards which are digital enabled, because when you are in office, you would tend to sort of go to whiteboard, but it should be available to people who are remote or in other locations. And then I think I am very passionate about this, that in this whole hybrid model, what I call as people or cultural tools, in a way that you have tools or software which enables appreciation and recognition across this workforce which is in different locations, right? Basic chatbot employee engagement tools. There are chatbots which sort of give a very human-like interactions and keep a regular check-in with employees at different stages and give a very personalized look. Whereas to managers and leadership, it gives a very individualized sort of view about what employees need. So I think that also would be important, bringing people and cultural tools in the organization. And to pick on what Sameer was mentioning, I also think what is going to happen, because while we want employees to be able to work from anywhere, we also have to keep the enterprise security in mind, right? So I think virtual or cloud personal computing, we have been seeing it in the production or enterprise space, but even on the personal computing space, probably a lot of that getting replaced by what you can call as a very thin client. Maybe tablets with right form factor, because it is not as big as laptop, but even when you are moving, you can have a tablet with right, and it's still big enough to have a call or collaboration, whereas your powerhouse or your desktop or laptop is sitting in the cloud, right? So it provides a secured, personalized environment, and at the same time, based on your computing need at that point of time, you get whether you are sitting in a coffee shop or in a small office or the headquarters, it gives you that mobility without compromising on security, as well as you get the right compute power. So these are some of the things I think, as we move into future, we would see all this happening in a more seamless manner and frictionless manner.
All right. Sameer, let me get you to respond to some of these points which Pankaj has raised. You have expectations where, say, you want the digital boards, whiteboards to be accessed, thin client devices are coming in. That's from the workflow perspective. But the other point which Pankaj had raised, which is in terms of enriching the employee experience in terms of appreciation or some sort of reward mechanism. Give us some use cases, give us some case studies from the vast repertoire of clients that Zoom has. How are companies enriching their engagements and experiences, both externally and internally, using collaborative tools and video communications, addressing these various points that which say Pankaj had mentioned?
Sure. So I think as the environment is changing and companies and organizations are rethinking whether it's going to be work from anywhere, whether it is going to be back in office for some, or whether for some organizations where they are actually giving away and moving out of their large premises, even headquarters themselves, right? So the organizations are evolving, employees are changing the way they are working, and it is the same with the collaboration platforms. Collaboration platforms need to evolve. They need to listen to the customers as to what is the need of the hour and deliver on that. I just heard something like whiteboard. I heard something like, pursuant as well as non-pursuant chat as well as communication. Well, all those things, well, we heard it long time back. We anticipated, we brought in. What are we doing? I'll share some of the use cases. One of the fantastic use cases what we recently did on 31st of December, we kept the city of Goa safe. How was that done? That was done live video feeds via Zoom to the commissioner's office, where the patrolling units, including your constables as well as inspectors on the motorbikes as well as in vans, they were all enabled with Zoom cameras. So that was the amazing part. And back at the HQ, the commissioner could see what's happening. Similarly, we did something like that on drones for some of the customers, where they wanted to really see what's going on in the factory, what's going on in the remote locations, to actually when they're installing those power transmission lines and so on and so forth. So customers are coming up with unique use cases. Similarly, there is an EV manufacturing company which was facing some challenges with the customers. It was a real difficult time coping up with the customer escalations on social media and so on and so forth. Today, that EV has a button. You touch on it, straight a Zoom call lands at a customer support representative. Issues get sorted out at a touch of a button. There is a human element, there is a voice, there is a face. You speak to that person, enhance you tell them the challenge, you get a solution, or at least you get the timeline by which you get a solution. And when you don't get that, when there is no human, see, chatbots, yes, Zoom, we have a chatbot, right? Chatbots can do X, but at the end of the day, it is the human immersive experience which is required for the customers as well as employee. And when that connect is established, when that touch is established, that's when everything starts becoming amazing. So to summarize, platforms need to evolve. And if you look at Zoom, it has evolved right from today. We have contact center to virtual agents to chatbots to artificial intelligence to IoT, everything embedded into Zoom as a platform. And use cases, they're endless, right from drones to monitoring or delivering education in remote locations. That's what we are doing.
Absolutely. And the use cases just keep expanding, especially in service of the human immersive experience, as you mentioned, Sameer. Bala, to get you in your response to that, and also adding to the point that as use cases grow, there is also this question of security, right? So, also to understand from you, Bala, what is the security strategy for your business? And is there any training for threat awareness or work from home best practices that you have in place for your employees?
Sure. So let's handle the security part first. So people who have data access, especially the customer data access, basically there is a bunch of security layer that our info security team has put in, and at the core of it, practically all the data is on the cloud. Most people, unless they have a specific need, cannot download PII. So let's say for the purpose of analysis, you don't need PII. I don't need to know who you are. I just need to know you are a 20-year-old versus a 40-year-old, etc., etc. So I need certain information unless I'm making a phone call to you. So a lot of those data, we made sure that is properly restricted to only on a need-to-know basis. All our key applications were available only on VPNs and so on. So there was one set of layer. We also did a set of info security things for our vendors who also were working hybrid suddenly. So think of our underwriters. Some are our own employees or call centers, where some of the calls were being addressed by people not necessarily in the as secure environment. So the info security is not just limited to our own employees, but also extend to the broader ecosystem, because again, it's only one weak link that a potential hacker can exploit. So you have to look at the entire end-to-end things. We have now cloud telephony, which means our agents, when they call you, unless they connect to you, they don't get to see your number. So, for example, if you are a lead, um, the lead will come to your phone in a digital manner, but your phone number will not be available unless I connect with you. The whole idea is that because customer connectivity is not 100% and so on, customer phone numbers and customer PII is a valuable information. And with I don't want everyone to have it unless there is a specific thing. So a lot of that is something that we incorporated. And again, I'm repeating this point because this is something we ensured, which is looking at the entire value chain or information flow chain, from say a server somewhere to the person who is actually using it, and also looking at the information generation point. So for example, if you speak about your income or your email address or your house address on a call center, that information is there, somebody is typing it out, so that's there. But also your voice call, which is digitized, that voice call, if that is hacked, of course someone will extract a bunch of PII there as well. So looking at the entire value chain, our team also would do a lot of uh, in-house, there is a word they use, basically as a part of training, they would themselves send, say, a phishing mail and then say, hey, you clicked at it, it was not verifiable and you should not have done this. So training was not only just telling everybody that you should do this versus not do this, but people who, for example, fell prey to these in-house hacking per se, or whatever you want to call it, they got extra trainings done, etc. So the whole idea is, it requires a mindset change and doesn't happen in a day, or by just attending a half a day training doesn't work.
It's a continuous process.
Exactly. And some of the things like what document do you share online and so on, and with greater emphasis on data privacy. Some of the tools where we share some of this data, now we either ensure that their data storage is in India, or if they cannot guarantee that, we look for solutions which could be either on-prem or on our cloud, which is in India, and so on. So the entire gamut is way bigger than just saying, "Hey, I will install a VPN and or a."
That's true. At the end of the day, let's not forget it's also an omni-channel world where the sort of gates of communication have expanded so rapidly, where the threat surface with its expansion and with a lot of active actors, threat actors involved, companies also need to be proactive in terms of solving or securing their sort of gateways to make sure that they are enabling growth. And speaking of growth, Pankaj, your thoughts on the latest measures that have been taken across organizations broadly to drive employee engagement. You spoke about employee engagement earlier. What are you seeing across the landscape on companies which are doing it right in terms of driving the right balance between remote and in-person work? And in your opinion, how can digital tools be used to reinforce culture within the organization and earn loyalty from employees? What are your thoughts on that, Pankaj?
Yeah. So Gautam, as I mentioned, I think all of us are sort of discovering things as we move forward. And I think it has both the element. One is the technology element, in fact, three element, mindset, and also human element. So technology, I think we already spoke about some of the things like, the employee appreciation, recognition, platforms, the engagement platform. And to add to Sameer, I think it's very true that while AI, chatbots, all this play a significant role, ultimately, when a human interaction happens, uh, I think there is no replacement. But what I think we also need is how can this be more seamless? That where the handover from technology to actual human is happening, the consumer, whether it is employee or end consumer, should see it seamless. Like from consumer perspective, it should not that the employees or the human is again asking for similar information. So same thing, sort of, in the employee experience, when we want to give them a feel of culture, I think those become important. In the tech, we also do this virtual hackathons, virtual idea jams, again to give a feel of sense of culture and sort of make sure that we continue driving innovation in the hybrid environment. I think also what probably we need to figure out is largely a lot of us would be craving for in-person connects, right? And even just moving out of the home space, people who have been working fully from their home or remote locations. So possibly, what I see when I talk, especially in my CTO and CIO circle, one of the thought which is emerging is that you have maybe the core offices, like for organization, as we may have few core offices in every, let's say metro, and then you have these small cluster offices, right? So even in Delhi NCR, let's say we may have a office in Delhi, we may have a smaller offices in Noida or Gurgaon, and sort of, and then even other cities, right? And then sort of, let's say, working out a mechanism that these cluster office travel to other offices once in a week or a fortnight, and then every quarter you do sort of a physical get-together meeting for a few days or a week. Let's say, once you may do it in Ahmedabad, another quarter you may do it in Pune. So I think those sort of models also have to be evolved and developed. And I think third thing would be maybe shared space, workspaces, where you have very few people and they want to come meet together once in a while. You don't want to create that entire infrastructure. So you have the shared, which is sort of, office sort of a space on demand. So I think beyond technology, we also need to look at some of these elements and sort of figure out what is working best for organization. But I think all these elements are important and need to work together.
Well, hopefully, as the evolution happens, the answers will keep coming up. Sameer, to bring you in back to the conversation, now there's no denying the importance of, say, continuous two-way communication in modern workplaces. Why is it critical to make a robust investment in communication channels specifically to support hybrid work? Your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the key aspect is, there was a time, let's not so long time ago, and there are still some organizations where it happens where a technology team ideally goes ahead and selects a application, a tool, or a device, or whatever, and there are a lot of factors to it. Maybe to the technology team, maybe the CISO, maybe somebody, or maybe the CFO who has taken a decision which is based on security, which is based on cost, or it could be based on just feature validation. When this is done, and pushed down the throats of the people, it is an absolute disaster or a friction. What happens is that these tools may or may not work at the ground level. And an employee who is supposed to do some job actually is unable to do so. The result is simple. Either there is frustration and the employee will, choose to move out or choose a different option. Now that's where things go southward. That employee may choose personal device or applications of his or her own choice if they are able to install it. And if that happens, the security of the entire organization is at risk. Right. And that is why it is extremely important. And if you look at it in the last 2.5 years, the role of a CIO and the technology team has evolved in these 2.5 years. Today, the technology team is more of a business enabler and partnering with business more rather than going and dictating terms in terms of technology. Yes, they may finally be the say in terms of security and rest of the things, but they are more today looked upon as a business enabler and a partner. As a result of which, The businesses are opening up more and more to technology team and saying that, hey, this is what I want, this is what I was looking for. Before, the businesses would just go and buy something themselves if they had the budget. If not, they would end up choosing or something, or utilizing something whatever they could get their hands on. So it's extremely,
Mm,
extremely important for the technology team, even the security team, to some large extent, to understand what really works at the ground level, and then provide those applications and tools which are, which work at the customer level, which work at the employee level. Now, Pankaj here brought a very valid point. Just imagine you visit a website at a pre-sales level, or just start chatting with a chatbot that gets elevated to a human interaction, and when the person comes online, just imagine you have to share all the history all over again. How frustrating it is. Okay, you end up buying it for whatever reason, and after buying, when you log in and using the same credentials, and then you get a support agent, the support agent chats with you, again escalates to a human, again the similar experience. Then the support agent say, you know what, I have a problem, I'll put it to my senior manager comes online, he again asks the same history. Just imagine how frustrating experience it becomes. Now, just
mm,
instead of that, if you have a single platform, right from chat to human intervention, and to support and to delivery and everything, and this is all integrated into your base application. Let's say it is a CRM system, to your your support systems, everything integrated. Whenever the agent logs in, they have information available at hand. And when
mm.
that happens, that's when the experience changes, even at the employee level, because employees are facing less friction with the customer. They're feeling empowered to take the decision, or empowered to take decision within the limits set for them. And the customer is enjoying because it's a seamless experience all throughout. And that's what we are
All
talking
right.
about.
All right. Bala, let me get a quick viewpoint on what Sameer has mentioned in terms of the possibilities, and also to understand from you, the digital tools and initiatives that you have invested in to streamline communication amongst employees and with the organization, and of course some of the challenge that you face. We'll take your viewpoint on this, and then we will go to the audience questions.
Sure. We do have, I would say, two set of communication tools. So within tech teams, etc., where the need of collaboration is at a very different level. So we have one set of communication tools that we use, mostly to enable conversations at a speed which is very different. For
Mm,
rest of the company, we do have uh, typical tools on the collaboration sides, where the same tool can be used for chatting, to sharing the documents, to making phone calls, to holding multi-people team, whether it's a video meeting or an audio only meeting, and so on. And what is also important, what we have done now, is give a lot of powers in the hand of the customers, which
mm,
means earlier, let's say you had to change your address, you had to give me an address proof, and I will validate the address proof whether it matches what you typed in the form. Now you can do a lot of it digitally, so if your new address is CKYC verified, I can actually go and verify it myself. So giving a lot of these kind of digital tools in a seamless experience basically makes the job from a customer perspective easy. And when you top it up on with say communication, if someone faces a difficulty, that basically completes the experience in more than one way. And let's say if you're, for some reason, CKYC is not happening, then I will say, oh, okay, you can just upload your XYZ document, and I will take care of it, and so on. So giving that kind of experience to the customer is important. Similarly, cross employee communication. Be it L1 support or collaboration with, say, sometime our frontline guys need to talk to our underwriting team or some other teams to complete the customer queries, and so on. So obviously not every team is exposed to the customer, but frontline team often have to talk to folks in the head office or otherwise to complete certain activities on behalf of the customer. So giving that secure way to complete, and also add experience from a digital perspective, like I'm talking about this particular customer. So the person on the other side should be able to look at all the relevant information rather than having to speak. So integration of some of these things through secure apps, etc., is equally important. And at the end of the day, communication is obviously very vital, because a lot of things often do get lost in miscommunication and so on. But doing it securely is as important or more important than the communication itself, because we very casually speak about, oh, my phone number is this, or my customer's number is this person's policy number is that, and I'm going to his office in BKC and so on. So we knowingly, unknowingly, do speak about PIIs in our regular conversation. So if, let's say, my voice data is being hacked right now, I would have potentially said a bunch of PIIs right now. So ensuring some of these things is secured, and therefore customer interests are. There is nothing as bad as leaking customer data at the end of the day. Whether
Absolutely.
it is one
Absolutely.
customer or thousands of customers. So ensuring all of that in the hand of our sales and other employees, that's what we care about.
All right. Well, I believe we have a hard stop. So thank you so much for joining us on this panel. Thank you so much for sharing your views. And of course, we'll head over to the questions from the audience for our panelists on this topic of reimagining future-ready workforce and workspaces. So let's take the first question, which comes from Sushil Kumar Nahar. Back to office. Are we coming a full circle? Sort of a simple question, but a lot of complicated moving parts behind it. Pankaj, you want to take this up?
Yeah. So as I said, Sushil and everybody, I think everybody is in a discovery mode. If anybody say I have figured out the answer, I think, I would like to meet that person. And when you are in the discovery mode, of course, we would swing like pendulum, and that's what happened. I think quite a few companies which were known for remote work also announced back to office fully, and then they realized, no, this is not going to work out, and we are figuring out. So I don't think it's like full circle, because that's when we have drawn the conclusion. We are yet far away from conclusion. And even hybrid itself is a hybrid term, because hybrid itself means so many things, right? It can be fixed days, few days from office, few days from work, to come any day, to, as Sameer was mentioning, you can work from anywhere, to shared spaces. So I think we have to figure out and mature these models. We have figured out possibilities, we have to mature and then see what work well for us. And even within the organization, right? What may work for, let's say, one team, let's say what may work for tech team versus what may work from operations team, to what works for the field teams, are not going to be same, right? So we have to define what works best for a particular team. But this is an interesting sort of phase where we are learning and making some conclusion, and then next wave of new discoveries hit us, and we say, no, we were not exactly right. So I think we still
you could
have
call
to
it the
reach
beta phase of you could
beta
you call
phase
it the
of this.
beta phase of working, right?
And
we'll
I
see.
same thing happened in consumer side as well, right? If we remember, when the pandemic hit, we started writing obituaries for brick and mortar retail. Quite a few pundits started writing, right? But when the things came back to normal, there was like a revenge shopping. Online players were struggling to grow to the rails, and we were seeing huge footfalls in the brick and mortar stores. So I think it's a complicated. Humans are a complicated and evolving being. We are still in the discovery or beta mode, as you are saying, Gautam. That would be my view on this.
Sameer, your thoughts on the fact that we are emerging out of this beta phase. What are some of the things which are going to stick in the way in which we have sort of embraced technology, embraced communication channels to improve engagement and experience both within the organization and outside the organization?
Well, beyond what Pankaj mentioned, I mean, there are various other elements that need to be looked into. And I can share an example which happened yesterday in Mumbai, right? I mean, we had our Honorable Prime Minister visiting Mumbai for the opening of the much awaited Metro lines. And half of the Mumbai was almost shut down, right? There were notifications out by traffic police that offices need to be shut down or don't travel or this and that. We are not considering that. The average air quality index of Mumbai is deteriorating, and we are not very far away from Delhi at this stage. We are not considering that. In fact, we did a survey some time back, and we found out that working from home has actually empowered women. So much of women workforce is coming back to work. Basically they are working from home, which was not they were not empowered to do so, because traveling to office and the travel time was really eating into their other activities. So these all positives we are not looking at, but we are looking at whether it is full work office or whether it is working from home due to COVID or because of some other major catastrophe. It's no longer that. It is very different. It is because of the traffic issues. We need to understand that Bangalore and Mumbai and Delhi, all the cities are today so clogged that it's difficult to travel from one destination to another. For mere 5 kilometers, it takes 1 hour, right? Same is the case for air quality. What about women who are working from home? Just imagine they're getting more opportunities. Why not? So if all these positives are there, of course, I think working from anywhere is going to continue. I would not say working from home, but working from anywhere is going to continue because it has a lot more positives compared to being in office.
That segues nicely to the next question, because working from anywhere is a great concept. It's an era of bring your own meetings, but it's also the generation gap which presents a problem, and that's a problem which Prashant Danekar lists as one of the key issues, where he says that any change calls for a mindset change as well. And there is a huge generation gap between the bosses and the team, especially in conventional industry. So the question is, are bosses adapting to the change? You see a lot of the employees who are millennials who are embracing change. The question is, are the bosses up to the task? So your thoughts on that, Pankaj?
I see. Firstly, I think this, the generation and managing the diverse or leading the diverse workforce, where you have millennials, Gen Z, all has already been sort of a challenge, but the pandemic has already accelerated it. But at the same time, I see that pandemic is also accelerated the mindset shift. If I go back 3 years or 4 years back, the pace of mindset shift that I was seeing versus what I saw during pandemic, I think it has been phenomenal. It has been multifold. So largely, I see that, of course, there is a mindset shift. Technology, of course, is also a great enabler, right? Great leveler also. It is also not a choice. It is, we have to adapt the mindset. We have to change the style. It is, after how much pain one is going to do that. But I think largely with both tech being more proliferated and the pandemic has significantly accelerated the mindset shift which is happening. Having said that, I think I would also like to highlight is that we also have to be a bit more empathetic to each other's point of view. Because even if I talk about a particular group of employees or people or customer, I see a significant difference of opinion, right? Like when I speak to my people or we do surveys in the same age group, we saw varied opinion. We have seen extreme opinion that, freshers or people 2 years out of college, some saying we want to be in office, right? And some saying we don't want to be in office at all, right? So what also is going to help is that while we are putting our point of view, we are also empathetic to other point of view and try to sort of, create more collaborative thought thinking there as well. That's sort of my personal view. But I definitely see that the bosses shifting their mindset. Some may be at a higher pace, some at a bit slower pace, but that I see happening.
All right. A cue to our audience to keep bringing in their questions. In the meanwhile, Sameer, your response to this question on this generation gap, whereby the employees will be embracing a lot of the change, but they question whether the bosses are up to the task in terms of the change in communication channels, the mode of working, a single platform, a lot of data-driven interactions, so to say. Your thoughts on this?
Well, just like what Pankaj mentioned, I would say it's a bitter pill. And let me give you a context to it, right? I mean, I will give my own context. I come from an era where, as a young kid, we and my family waited for more than, I think, 6 years to get a telephone line installed at our home after putting in an application. And I still remember neighbors queuing up outside to get their calls and we used to tell them, hey, tell your relatives to call post 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whatever time frame, right? I come from that era. So I have seen that when the mobile phone first launched, we would see the number and we would disconnect and go to find a public booth and make a phone call from there because, inbound was some 12, 15 rupees or something like that. So yeah, please give us some grace to old people like us, and it will take time for us to transform. I will not say that, but as Pankaj mentioned, we transformed quite fast. We transformed
Mm,
quite fast in the last 2 years. The space of transformation has been amazing. People have adopted the technology. I'll give you an example again on this, and this time I'm not doing it for my own thing, but if you walk by the roadside, you will see even senior citizens talking to their loved ones on a video call, video chat, right? Using
mm,
and also watching videos or digital media on their devices. Now, was that possible 4 years back or 5 years back? Probably no. Today, accessibility to better devices, better bandwidth, 5G, and also forced to use that application and technology in the lockdown period of 2 years has made this possible. So I think yes, it's a bitter pill, and people are acknowledging it. We have gone from hailing a cab to booking a cab online. We've gone from cash to UPI. Scan the code. Even a simple hawker today has a barcode or a QR code over there where you can scan and make the payment. We've gone from there to there. So I think this will
mm.
also change. It's in the change process. How much time it takes, it just remains to be seen. But yes, it's a bitter pill, and one needs to take it because that's the way ahead.
Pankaj, your thoughts on this?
No, I would echo. When nostalgic. I still remember, the huge line, people queuing up, your neighbors queuing up when you get a telephone connection and you would distribute sweets. But, to add
Mm,
to what Sameer mentioned, I would also say that, remember that all these bosses have kids at home, right? So
mm,
there is anyway a force uh, at home that which is making them to shift to adapt to. The
mm.
kids are an enabler or catalyst in the generations, even the grandparents adapting to these new ways of working and
And in terms of
communicating.
this ecosystem transforming, as Sameer mentioned, if 5G comes in, right, then we can expect a lot of video collab. People are already comfortable talking to each other over video, right, Pankaj? So especially for businesses, are we going to see a lot of opportunities open up once 5G comes in? Because say I am a customer, I visit one of the Ajio shops and I see something which I like. I want, say, some expert within the Ajio ecosystem to give me a certain viewpoint on, say, a particular piece, whether it's a suit piece of some sort. Let me just give an example, or a shirt piece. And then you can just video call that person, and even if that person is not in the same store. So once 5G comes in, do you see a lot of the opportunities, especially on video collaboration, opening up?
Yes, for sure. There's a lot of work I cannot share right now, but there is a lot of work which we are doing on that area. And 5G
Mm,
is going to be another revolution, like what happened. Video calling
mm,
in already has been sort of, a lot of video commerce and is already there today. Live commerce is already there today, right? But
mm.
5G is going to take it to very next level. It is going to bring much more uh, bridge the gap between physical experience that one would have versus the digital experience. So there is a lot more interesting thing which are going to happen with 5G adoption happening.
All right, Sameer, are we entering the era of video commerce right now, in your opinion, especially as
Well,
5G comes in?
we have already entered. Is I would say there are quite a few players with whom we are piloting a couple of initiatives in terms of, again, I can't share the names, but there are a lot of pilots going on, right from banks to retail stores, where there are set of customers who are elite customers or high net worth banking, high net worth individuals to entire buying experience moving with an option of, it could be one store to another connection, or it could be just giving that initial or even the closing experience on the video. And we are doing a lot of pilots around that. It's already happening. It's already happening.
All right. Any best practices that Sameer you could share, especially as we've been talking about workforce engagement and keeping the workforce ready for the next new normal? Any best practices that you could share in terms of keeping engagement top and center, and how to kind of approach it, how to measure it, and how to make sure that whatever steps that an organization is taking to improve engagement actually sticks? Any best practices that you could share from that vast repertoire of clients that you have?
So a couple of them. I think the first one is towards the technology team, and I always talk about this, including in the roundtable which I spoke about in last 2 days back. The first thing is for the technology team that choose a tool which works for the business, right? And don't choose something which you think is right, or which or your CFO or your CISO thinks right. Evaluate the tool which is right in all parameters and works at the field level. That's the first element. So partner with your business is what I will summarize, because what a collaboration tool or a communication platform which works for a bank doesn't work for retail, doesn't work for manufacturing. They all need different parameters and protocols. So that's the first element. The second element is flexibility and adoption. Choose a tool which is you know which is flexible and can be adopted fast. Now that is the second extremely critical. Just because you've deployed something doesn't mean that people are going to start using it immediately. And even if they start using it, the problem is 99% of the time the video will be off, and then comes the issue of culture, then comes the issue of connect, then comes the issue of having no immersive connection. Well, that's the difference, right? When you're using a platform where the video is frictionless and you can join at any bandwidth, then it's very different experience altogether. Employees choose to join with the video on, whether they are wearing a pajamas or whether they are in a business suit. So that's something. Choose a tool which is flexible and and can be easily adopted by the end user. And third one is the simple fact that the tool that you choose should be able to provide you integrations into your existing applications and not replace in the entire gamut of things, to make your workflows simple. Such as if you are having a CRM system, if you are having ServiceNow as your service desk platform, or you might have something else. You might have your payment gateway systems or something. So integrated and a integrated platform which gives you those flexibilities to adopt through your APIs, SDKs, and integrate and have a integrated workflow for your entire organization, be it employees or be it customers.
Cohesive and seamless. So Pankaj, your thoughts on this? Some of the best practices that you would recommend for employee engagement to really stick and improve. What would you say?
I think Sameer has covered it quite well. I would just also add that sometimes very simple things create a large impact. Some time back I had this noise cancellation app, right? Because when you are working in a hybrid model, working from home, you would have suddenly you are speaking and some noise would come. Your doorbell would ring, and that used to create friction, right? You would also make me feel conscious. But once I installed it, it was a small thing. I did not realize the power of the experience it would give to me. But it sort of really took that comfort of always on thing to a next level. So sometimes we ignore, but these simple things help. The second learning which I would like to share is that I think we need to always be mindful of things that technology and tools are great help, great enabler, and we have to use them like this. We need to always remember that they cannot replace what we call as human touch, human factor, right? So the
So
human
what would
factor
you say
has,
is the best way for that balance? Since you mentioned the human factor, the balance between humans and the technology aspect, what's the one thing that, say, folks or enterprises around India or across the world should keep in mind according to you? Where you leverage the benefits of the technology, but you still maintain that human aspect. What's the one point that they need to be mindful of?
I think just if we just remember these tools are there to aid and help us and not replace. I think this simple thing, if we just keep that at the center of our consciousness, I think other things fall.
All right. Technology
fall in
always
place.
as an augmentative
And if,
rather than
to
a
put it in
replacing
other
one.
way, if we say I have this great tech and you leave it to that, then it doesn't. So it is a simple hack, but I think if we are aware of, mindful of it, other things fall in place.
All right, Sameer, as we look to conclude the conversation, distill down this 1 hour of exchange that we have had into some key points, a key message that the audience should take away from this conversation.
Well, I think it is very simple. It revolves all around enhancing the employee and the customer experience. That's the key of it. While some people might say, some organizations might believe in employee experience first. Well, there are certain organizations and companies and individuals who believe that customer experience comes first. It's debatable, and every organization has their own thought. So that's for you to decide. But there is an evolving thought now that brand experience is something which is a cumulative of both, probably is more equally important. So I think that's extremely important. And the employees and the customers, they more or less are on the same platform. They are transformed, they have adopted new technologies, and probably are using a state of the art devices and have even better bandwidths at their home compared to what an organization can provide in office. And that's a big challenge, because when employees are coming back to offices, their bandwidth is choked, devices are old and not working. So that's what thing. It's all about CX and EX.
All right, all about CX and EX, and that's what we are here to discuss, redefining both of them. Well, that brings us to the end of this conversation around reimagining future-ready workforce and workspaces as part of Forbes India presents Redefining CX, the Edge of Collaboration platform powered by Zoom. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for sharing their lessons and insights on the topic, and of course, to our viewers for tuning in and enabling a dynamic interaction of thoughts and ideas. Till next time, this is your host, Gautam Srinivasan, signing off. Have a great day.
Forbes India presents Redefining CX, the Edge of Collaboration platform powered by Zoom.